David Crispin with the United States Marine Corps.
Jacqueline Beam, 519th Military Intelligence, U.S. Army.
Matthew Hernandez, United States Navy.
Keith Claxton, United States Navy.
Paul Portillo, United States Navy.
Robert Griego, U.S. Navy, Operations Specialist.
Chris Oakley, United States Navy, United States Marine Corps, State of New Mexico Army National Guard.
Melinda Medlin, United States Army.
Norman Aragod, U.S. Army National Guard.
Raven Nieto, United States Army.
Oscar Martin Lopez, United States Marine Corps.
Martin, United States Army, retired.
Valentino Baca, United States Marine Corps.
Jeff Folgate, United States Air Force.
Kenneth Quintana, United States Army, and as well as New Mexico National Guard. Combined service, 24 years.
Santa Fe County is hiring. Every Tuesday, Public Works holds a rapid hire event at 102 Grant Avenue at 8:30 a.m. Also, the Correctional Facility holds a rapid hire event every Tuesday at 9 a.m. That is at 28 Camino Justicia. We have great jobs, great pay, and great benefits. Come work with us.
Why do you work for Santa Fe County?
For my family.
For your safety.
For you.
For my community.
For the public.
For the community.
For the retirement.
To serve my community.
For my family.
For the outdoors.
David Crispin with the United States Marine Corps.
Jacqueline Beam, 519th Military Intelligence, U.S. Army.
Matthew Hernandez, United States Navy.
Keith Claxton, United States Navy.
Paul Portillo, United States Navy.
Robert Griego, U.S. Navy, Operations Specialist.
Chris Oakley, United States Navy, United States Marine Corps, State of New Mexico Army National Guard.
Melinda Medlin, United States Army.
Norman Aragod, U.S. Army National Guard.
Raven Nieto, United States Army.
Oscar Martin Lopez, United States Marine Corps.
Martin, United States Army, retired.
Valentino Baca, United States Marine Corps.
Jeff Folgate, United States Air Force.
Kenneth Quintana, United States Army, and as well as New Mexico National Guard. Combined service, 24 years.
Santa Fe County is hiring. Every Tuesday, Public Works holds a rapid hire event at 102 Grant Avenue at 8:30 a.m. Also, the Correctional Facility holds a rapid hire event every Tuesday at 9 a.m. That is at 28 Camino Justicia. We have great jobs, great pay, and great benefits. Come work with us.
Why do you work for Santa Fe County?
For my family.
For your safety.
For you.
For my community.
For the public.
For the community.
For the retirement.
To serve my community.
For my family.
For the outdoors.
David Crispin with the United States Marine Corps.
Jacqueline Beam, 519th Military Intelligence, U.S. Army.
Matthew Hernandez, United States Navy.
Keith Claxton, United States Navy.
Paul Portillo, United States Navy.
Robert Griego, U.S. Navy, Operations Specialist.
Chris Oakley, United States Navy, United States Marine Corps, State of New Mexico Army National Guard.
Melinda Medlin, United States Army.
Norman Aragod, U.S. Army National Guard.
Raven Nieto, United States Army.
Oscar Martin Lopez, United States Marine Corps.
Martin, United States Army, retired.
Valentino Baca, United States Marine Corps.
Jeff Holgate, United States Air Force.
Kenneth Quintana, United States Army, and as well as New Mexico National Guard. Combined service, 24 years.
Santa Fe County is hiring. Every Tuesday, Public Works holds a rapid hire event at 102 Grant Avenue at 8:30 a.m. Also, the correctional facility holds a rapid hire event every Tuesday at 9 a.m. That is at 28 Camino Justicia. We have great jobs, great pay, and great benefits. Come work with us.
Why do you work for Santa Fe County?
For my family.
For your safety.
For you.
For my community.
For the public.
For the community.
For the retirement.
To serve my community.
For my family.
For the outdoors.
David Crispin with the United States Marine Corps.
Jacqueline Beam, 519th Military Intelligence, U.S. Army.
Matthew Hernandez, United States Navy.
Keith Claxton, United States Navy.
Paul Portillo, United States Navy.
Robert Griego, U.S. Navy, Operations Specialist.
Chris Oakley, United States Navy, United States Marine Corps, State of New Mexico Army National Guard.
Melinda Medlin, United States Army.
Norman Aragod.
Okay, hello out there. Welcome to the meeting of the Santa Fe County Planning Commission, Thursday, December 21st, 2023. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, can we get a roll call, please? Here?
Yeah, present.
Here. Thank you. Okay, approval of the agenda. Jose, do we have any amendments or table withdrawn items?
Mr. Chair, there are no amendments or table withdrawn items on the agenda.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I make a motion to amend the agenda? I'd like to amend the agenda to remove approval of the minutes. I don't believe those were properly posted, and so if we could defer approval of those minutes until the next meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Derek. Okay, and nothing on the consent. Let's move on along to new business. Case number 23-5180, Todd and Elizabeth sample variances. Manuel?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ryan Olivas, Development Review Specialist Senior with the Growth Management Division. Todd and Elizabeth Sample, applicants Carl Sommer, agent, request a variance of the Sustainable Land Development Code, Section 7.17.9.3, to allow residents to be greater than 18 feet in height, and a variance of Section 7.17.10.7.8 to allow retaining walls to be greater than 5 feet in height. The property is within residential community zoning district within the South Summit 8 subdivision. The 2.02 acre site is located at 1118 South Summit Ridge in Section 17, Township 17 North, Range 10 East, Commission District 4, SDA 2. On February 26, 2021, the applicant submitted for a development permit for construction of a single-family dwelling on the property. The property is at an elevation of more than 7,400 feet, which subjects the property to the requirements of Section 7.17.10 of the SLDC. Construction on the property is also subject to a maximum height limitation of 18 feet. The plans that were submitted and approved by staff met the requirements of the SLDC. The applicants retained a contractor to construct the dwelling pursuant to the approved plans. After the building site was excavated and the finished floor elevation was set and the dwelling was framed and the house was completely enclosed and roofed, applicants state that only then was discovered that the elevation of the house was approximately 3 to 5 feet above the maximum permitted height, and that the retaining walls near the lower end of the dwelling are 3 feet above the maximum allowed height. The applicants are requesting these two variances so that the construction of the dwelling can be completed without remediating the non-compliant features. Although the applicants have not obtained a cost estimate for bringing the residence and retaining wall into compliance, such measures would undoubtedly be very expensive. The applicants propose to mitigate the effect of the non-conforming height by adding retaining walls and plantings to screen the parts of the home that appear to be the tallest and none of which are visible from the public right-of-way. The applicant has addressed the variance criteria and staff has responded. On November 9th, 2023, this request was presented to the Sustainable Land Development Hearing Officer. The hearing officer memorialized findings of fact and conclusion of law in a recommended order on this request. The hearing officer, based on the evidence presented, recommended approval of the 2 variances from the requirements of the SLDC to allow a residence to be greater than 18 feet in height and retaining walls to be greater than 5 feet in height. The subject 2.02 acre real property is located in the South Summit subdivision within Section 17, Township 17 North, Range 10 East, in Commission District 4. The written order and the minutes of the November 9th, 2023 hearings are attached as exhibits. Staff recommends denial of the requested variance of Section 7.17.9.3 to allow residents to be greater than 18 feet in height, and also recommends denial of the requested variance of Section 7.17.10.7.8 to allow retaining walls to be greater than 5 feet in height. If the Planning Commission finds that the variances requested are a minimal easing and/or finds that the variance request has met the variance criteria, staff recommends the following condition be imposed. The applicant shall resubmit plans illustrating the existing elevations of the dwelling and retaining walls. The plan shall include engineering plans for retaining walls stamped by New Mexico professional engineer. This report and the exhibits listed below are hereby submitted as part of the hearing record. Thank you. I stand for any questions.
Yes, thank you. Does the commission have any questions of staff? AJ?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I was going to ask staff, Brian, did they ever submit any stamped plans for the retaining walls? I think that was something that was requested. Has that been done? I saw a letter from an engineer saying that he thought everything was fine, but any stamped plans?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, there was an original building permit, construction permit on February 26, 2021. And also I received a letter from a professional engineer that was also submitted to the agenda.
And then when was this permit issued, or when was the house started to be built? Was that in 2021? Are you familiar with that?
The original permit was in 2021, and that's why we're submitting for the variance.
And when was construction begun? Do you know when construction was begun?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Gonzalez, no, we don't know exactly when construction started. With our permits, with the development permits, they have a year to start and 2 years to finish, so somewhere between.
I'll ask that question to the applicant. And the violation was noted by who? Who noted the violation in April?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Gonzalez, the HOA has they go out to a private architect in that area and to approve the plans prior to even submit it for permit. And I believe there was somebody that called from the HOA, noticed that maybe those retaining walls in the dwelling was higher than what it should be, and the architect went out to look at the construction and then contacted county staff, and we went out there and looked at it. And that's
okay. And did anybody come up with a cost estimate of what is required to correct the problems with the height and the retaining walls? I noticed that they said it was very expensive to remediate that. Any idea?
Mr. Chair, Planning Commission members, John Lovato, Building Development Services Supervisor. Mr. Gonzalez, the actual structure was already almost complete. It was just outside shell that was already up, and the interior needed to be finished and finalized, and some plastering and whatnot to be done. So at that point, staff determined the next scenario for them to be would to submit either for variance or bring the project into compliance. Seeing that was impractical, nothing was asked for at that point, but given that option of the variance.
The other question I had that I should have asked earlier, did we ever hear this case for a variance back in 2020 or 2021 I recall something like that in the Summit area. They didn't come for a variance at that time?
Mr. Chair, Planning Commission Gonzalez, that's correct. Well, no, you're wrong. Sorry. Nobody actually applied for any variances prior to. So this is just one of those things that just occurred.
The plans were submitted to the county. The county reviewed the plans. They approved the plans as submitted with conditions or whatever it was, and then it went to the contractor, and that's how it got started. So it seems to me that they started construction way before 2023, because in 2023 they found the violation and the house was mostly built. So I was wondering when they started construction. And when they could have determined the height was out of compliance. That's the questions I have.
Mr. Chair, Commission Member Gonzalez, I think, yes, you're right. They probably began shortly right after 2021 as the permit was approved. That's probably a question you would ask the owners. But the violation was not found until later on down the line when the walls were constructed and
that's when the county first went out there in April of 2023? Is that when you people found out about it?
Mr. Chair, Commission Member Gonzalez, that is correct.
Okay. Well, thank you.
So, was there a notice of violation issued?
Mr. Chair, Commission members, no, there was not, because they brought the property into compliance. We gave them a verbal warning. Next would be the follow-up of the violation, and they were quick on it in the offices.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may, just to clarify, the plans that were submitted to Santa Fe County did meet the code requirements, and that's why they were approved.
Thank you, Jose. Okay. Eric.
Chair. Brian, I wonder, so it appears that because the contractor did not excavate to the required depth, the house the plans that were submitted, the house was not built to the plans that were submitted and approved because the grade of the finished floor needed to be 3 to 5 feet lower, and so it was because of that, because it was hard to dig, or for whatever reason, he can't read a transit, he was unable to bring it to the proper grade, so the house was basically just too high on the site, but it was built according to the plans. It was just built 3 to 5 feet higher than it should have been to meet the code. Is that a good summation of what the problem is?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, to clarify, are you asking if they did build out to the plans that were submitted, or?
I'm asking the house on the site looks like the plans. It's just higher in the air than it should be because the excavation was not done according to those plans. Is that about correct?
Mr. Chair, Commission Member Abode, that is correct. I believe staff theory is that they didn't want to have to deal with the rock, and that's probably the reason why this occurred. Probably the reason why the contractor is no longer working on this project.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Hey, John, stay there.
Appreciate it.
I have a question. So I didn't hear what you said earlier. So in 2021, a variance was granted to build on 30% slopes?
Mr. Chair, Commission Member Gonzalez, that is incorrect. The actual site is within the designated buildable area, and was not on 30% slope at that point from the slope analysis presented.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of staff? Wendy?
Yeah, I have a question. So the report said that these structures aren't visible from a public right-of-way. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, that is correct. Those photos are provided in the exhibits as well.
But someone from the surrounding property noticed that these structures were in violation of the code.
That is correct.
Okay.
Rhea?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for staff. What is the approximate elevation of the site? It says above 7,400 feet. Is it?
Mr. Chair, Commission member, that is correct. It's about 7,600 feet, 77 in between that area. It could be closest to 78. It just differs because the hillsides are rolling through that area.
Okay. And then a follow-up question regarding to that. So if a development takes place on a site that's less than 7,400 feet in elevation, what is the maximum height?
Mr. Chair, Commission member, there is no difference between the two elevation points. The only difference would be screening, buffering the site, landscaping, so on and so forth. The height still remains the same as it would for a ridge top, 14 flat, 18 pitch. In this case, because it steps down a hillside, it's 18 per each elevation and no more than 30 overall.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions of staff?
Mr. Chair, I have another question.
Sure.
The subdivision, the South Summit 8 subdivision, do you know approximately how many vacant lots are in that subdivision?
Mr. Chair, Commission member, there's probably I would say about a good 50 still standing in that subdivision.
Okay.
Because they did a couple of lot line adjustments, and there for a time it went into the city, and they did some adjustments and also created some stuff. So it's back with the county, and it's about the approximation of it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions of staff? Okay, the applicant is present. Please come forward. Mr. Summers, please get yourself sworn in.
Sorry, he told me that. My name is Carl Summer. My address is Post Office Box 2476, Santa Fe, New Mexico, here in Santa Fe. Good afternoon, members of the commission. I'm here with Elizabeth and Todd Sample, who are having to go through this because of exactly what Commissioner Abo said. This house was permitted and met the code. They went through a rigorous process, and you hit it on the head. The contractor did not dig deep enough. Otherwise, the house is built exactly to plan. It just sits higher on the site. The effect of that has been that along the lowest part of the house, it goes up above 18 feet. So the highest part of the house is not out of compliance with the code. It's the lowest part of the house that's out of compliance with the code. What I'd like to do is go through just how we got here, and I'd like to answer Commissioner Gonzalez's questions specifically. Construction was begun in April of 2021. I want to get all of your questions answered. You asked, was a cost submitted to determine what would it take to bring it down to 18 feet in those locations? The answer was no. A cost was not determined because it couldn't be done by that point. There's not enough room. You'd have to take the whole roof off, rebuild the walls, and then you'd have rooms that had 8-foot ceilings, or I don't even know what they would be really. It would be complete ripping the whole thing down. So that's why we didn't go through that exercise. I wanted to answer that question for you specifically. The question was asked by Commissioner Cerna, how many unbuilt lots are there in this subdivision? This subdivision meanders around the hillside. In this portion of the subdivision, there's approximately, I counted up, I think 10 lots out of 30 that are not built on. And around the other side, there are lots of vacant lots that face towards the ski basin and that sort of thing. So the lots that are not built on are scattered around. One of the lots that's not built on is the neighbor to the east. He's directly across the road. His lot is higher, and I brought a picture so that if you're standing on his lot, if you look out here, you can see this. He looks over this house. So I wanted to answer that question. So let me go back to how this all started. Todd and Elizabeth went through a rigorous design process. The High Summit Homeowners Association has their set of covenants. The county has its set of covenants. They hired professionals to comply with the code. Commissioner Gonzalez, Chairman Gonzalez, will recall that Santa Fe Summit, this portion of Santa Fe Summit is the portion that is on the west side of the slope. It's down lower. You drive down to get to it, and the lots are fairly steep almost everywhere. They have building envelopes within which the county, when the subdivision was approved variances for disturbances of 30% that were within the building envelope. So just wanting to, I think that's what you were referring back to, is that these building envelopes have portions of them that have patches of 30% because of the terrain. It is a legacy subdivision, so if you build within the building envelope, you're okay. That's the interpretation and the application of the code as it was. I wanted to clarify that. So this is a lot that is steep. It steps down the hill. So the roadway is above the building site. The building site steps down the side of the hill within a building envelope, and it sits kind of on a little round rolling ridge that runs, not a ridge, but runs down the side of the hill. And they hired a contractor, said, build the house, got approval from the HOA, from the county, please build the house. It started in April. How this all arose was the contractor is supposed to provide surveys as you go along to the HOA. One of the surveys that's to be provided is citing, making sure that where the excavation and the footings and the stem walls have gone is within the building envelope. That was done. What was missing from that, which Todd and Elizabeth did not know, was he was supposed to do an elevation survey as well. Did not do it. At that time, the walls were up. It was, so the HOA later, much later, a year later, came back and said, we need your elevation surveys. An elevation survey was done, it was submitted. That's how this whole thing came up. At that point, it was determined. And I remember distinctly when this whole elevation thing came up at the HOA and then subsequently at the county, Elizabeth went out to the site and she's on the lowest part of the house, walking down. There was a set of steps down to the natural ground, and there's only supposed to be 6 steps. Well, there's 6 steps, but they don't get you to the ground. And she raised with them and said, there's more steps here than they're shown on the plans. That speaks to exactly what it is. On the lowest part of the house, he did not go down an additional 3 feet. Todd and Elizabeth did not know this. It gained nothing for them. It has jeopardized their financing. It has jeopardized their relationship with their neighbors. It has jeopardized their relationship with the county. It has done nothing but produce problems. So the question that answers is, well, this was clearly not somebody gaming the system. And I brought some photographs that I want to show you that shows that the 3 feet that it's too tall on the downside of the house doesn't do anything to the view. You're looking at the same thing you would otherwise look at. So I want to make that clear because so often you hear from people who have just simply said, you know, the rules don't apply to me. I'm going to build it. I'm going to ask for forgiveness later. This is not one of those cases.
Carl, I have a question quick.
Sure.
Kind of reminds me of what you're talking about. So these days in the county, the city, whenever you're building a house, these days they're requiring, usually the soils report requires over excavation to 4 to 5 feet. So is that not going on up there, or did they just that thrown out of hell, just got thrown out of whack?
It's not going on up there, Chairman, because as you'll recall, this is bedrock. When you get down there, they're having to either blast or jackhammer their footings in. And so when you get your footing done, you take off the topsoil, and there's nothing but solid rock. And you're cutting trenches into solid rock for the footings. And unfortunately, he should have gone down another 3 feet in most cases. at the lowest part of the house, he should have gone down another 3 feet. I brought some photographs that will show you exactly, that demonstrates exactly what the problem was. May I approach you all?
Sure.
Photographs taken by Elizabeth, and they show you how this is the bottom part of the house, and these are the retaining walls. And these retaining walls, everything above the red line, that's 5 feet. It would be in compliance, right? Everything below is the distance in those locations that he should have gone down deeper in that location. I wanted to show you these because they demonstrate exactly what the problem was created by this with respect to the retaining walls.
Carl, do you remember the Mel Mead House back at the city years ago?
Yes, I do.
This reminds me, that line there reminds me of the opposite.
Yeah. For all of you that remember, somebody climbed on his roof and did a painted line across and did somebody with a saw, painted somebody with a saw saying, when. You remember that, guys? You're dating yourself and me. Anyway, in that particular case, and the reason I raised that is I represented Mel in front of the city, and it was clear at the hearing that Mel just didn't care about the rules. And that's why people were so upset.
Yeah. It was a whole different situation.
Right, different situation here. So when they discovered this, they came and we immediately applied for these variances because, practically speaking, there's only one thing that can be done, and that's to try and mitigate or rip the house down. We're hoping that you will not think that ripping the house down is the correct solution. What has been the solution? We met with the homeowners association. Of course, they were upset. They went into negotiations, and after a very intense back and forth, they came up with a remediation plan that mitigates all of the effects of what the lowest part of this house would be visible from, the neighboring properties. And that settlement agreement is part of your packet, and so is the landscaping remediation plan. And what it does is it has the effect of planting trees in locations on the house so that when you're looking at the house, you would see normally what you would otherwise see. And this mitigation plan also tiers the planting so that it plants in one location, another location, so that it screens the retaining walls and screens the house all the way around the house on all sides. So as you might imagine, this is going to be expensive to do, but it will have the effect of mitigating to the degree that one can mitigate, and it also will resolve the issues with respect to the neighbors and their concerns about the violation of both the code and the covenants. And again, this is not something that any owner would want to do to themselves. Yes, ma'am.
What has the contractor said about
What does the
this?
contractor say?
Mhm.
I don't know. He's not with us anymore. We haven't dealt with it. When I first got into it, I did an exhaustive analysis. I mean, to determine, was the topographic stuff wrong? Was this, and it just comes clear to me that that's what happened. And
So he wasn't contacted and asked what happened here?
Oh yeah, he was contacted and asked. He's not working for the samples anymore.
Right.
I don't think we ever got an adequate explanation as to how it happened. It became absolutely clear what happened.
Okay, thank you.
Is he a local contractor?
Yes.
Hope he's not doing any work in the escarpment after this meeting.
Yeah. I wanted to show you some photographs so that you knew, okay. Brian, what is it? Okay, here we are. I'm going to go right to the photographs that I'll start. So if you're on Hyde Park Road, does that come up on your screens there? Okay. If you're on Hyde Park Road going towards 10,000 Waves, at this point on the road, you've passed on the left, the parking lot for the trailhead there. And if you looked up here, this is what you see. And as you can see, the house isn't visible from here. So this is not an issue where someone is going to come in from Albuquerque and say, what the hell is that on the side of the hill? When you're as close as you are here, this is what you see. You don't see the house. And I want to be absolutely open with you all. I took photographs from across the way at the parking lot. You can see the house there, and then I'll talk to you about why the mitigation that we're talking about will work. That's the house taken from the Dale Ball parking lot. And this is much higher than the roads there, but I wanted you to see that because in point of fact, you can see this house like you can see all the other houses. You can see that 3 feet on the lowest part of the house would not lower its profile, but those retaining walls might be visible. And the mitigation plan is to take all of the sides that you see there and cover them with trees so that you're looking at like any other house you see up there. And I wanted you to see that. I didn't have to bring in this shot, but all of us in this room have been up there and looked across there, and that's what it looks like, and the remediation plan will help that. This is from the neighbor to the east. I told Ms. Cerna that if you're looking from the east across, this is the building site of this person's property. He looks right over the top of this house. So this house hasn't been built in a way that blocks the neighbor's view to take advantage of a greater view, and I wanted you to see that from here. You can see the house through the trees there, and beyond that is that mountain net. What is that? Sierra del Norte. And I think that's where that comes from. So this is the house looking from the south. This building site came before you all not too long ago to build on a ridgetop. And this is that person's view at the house. And the remediation plan, if you look at it, has trees planted all along this side. This portion of the house that you're looking at is not out of compliance with the code, but we're still screening it. I wanted you to see that from their point of view. This is if you're on the road, you'll recall at the beginning I told you the road is above the house. This is what the house looks like from the road. So it's not like something that sticks up and towering and that sort of thing. This is below the road. You look over this from the road. This side of the house gets planting as well, so that people are driving by, there's trees here. This is just another view of that same thing. This portion of the house is not out of compliance in the sense that it's too high. It meets the code requirements. It's the lower portion of the house. I wanted to show you this view. This is a view that I took standing at the bottom of the retaining walls on the natural ground. So this is what you look across at the view. So you see that view, and I wanted to show you, this is the view from inside the house. You can see that this is the exact same view. You don't gain anything by lifting the house at this location 3 feet. And again, I want to emphasize, the mistake is most unfortunate, costly, distressing, all of the things that it has been to the neighborhood, to the samples, and the amount of time that staff has had to put in is most unfortunate. We're here to ask, to the degree that is reasonably possible, to correct this with the remediation plan. And that brings me to really the final point I'd like to make. You guys that go through variances every month or month after month, you know the criteria. I'm not going to run through each one of them, but I wanted to talk about one that is important, and that is what we're asking for contrary to the public interest? The public interest in these height limitations is to lower the profile of houses in sensitive areas. I mean, that's the public interest. What we're talking about here is that the highest part of this house, the part that's out of compliance, is the lowest part, and the remediation plan screens this completely. So what we're trying to achieve through the remediation plan is to uphold the public interest, which is to mitigate the impacts of development in sensitive areas, in mountainous areas. I say that to you because it really is what's behind our request. How do we best fix this without causing a huge and catastrophic impact on the samples? They're not here because they tried to do something wrong. They're not a bit of, they're victim as much as the neighbors and everybody else. They are doing their best to mitigate that harm and to bring this into compliance. I'd like to, thank staff for the amount of time that they've put into this. And when we first started this, they were short-staffed, and it's a task to handle these cases, and they've devoted a lot of time, and we have appreciated that. And the last thing I'd like to say, I think this is your last meeting, Chairman Gonzalez, and thank you for your service over the many, many, many years. I think it's been at least 40 years that you've been doing this stuff.
Or closer to 6.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you, and we'd stand for any questions, and Todd or Elizabeth might have a word to say to you all, but if you have any questions about how this happened, what the effects are, we're glad to answer them.
Any questions? Eric?
Yes, thanks, Chairman. Carl, I wonder if you'd tell me, it appears that the Homeowners Association has removed any opposition to this so long as the remediation plan is put in effect. If I remember correctly, there was also a by the end of 2023 requirement in there. Do you anticipate any problem with the Homeowners Association if you can't put a tree in the ground this time of year? And
the settlement agreement covers that, and there is a hefty fine. There's a fine.
Permitting.
Yeah, there's a fine for not completing. We've done our best to try and make it, but you're correct. We are not going to make that deadline, and we'll deal with it. I think that the association has been watching, and we'll deal with that as we can. But that's the best solution that we could do. They wanted to make sure it gets done, because as everybody knows, you don't want to have to enforce this later, and so there's a penalty in there.
Absolutely.
Did you get a decent contractor to finish up?
Yes, we have found somebody who is entirely reliable and has 50 years of experience in this town.
Sounds good.
Mr. Chair,
AJ.
I just wanted to say that, Carl, you gave a very compelling explanation of how we got to this situation, and you clarified a lot of the questions that I had. So it's very good. Thank you.
Thank you. There was one that I wanted to clarify. Jorge Gonzalez, who was the architect, the structural guy who stamped the original plans, Elizabeth and Todd got him out there to do an inspection of the as-built. That's why his letter is there. He's liable on the original plans, and now he's liable on the, when I say liable, he put his stamp on there saying that these are structurally safe. And I wanted to, I didn't catch that one first.
That I didn't see the stamp on the letter, but
Yeah.
if you say there's a stamp on there, that's,
He signed the letter, stamped and dated it, and his stamp is on the original plans.
well, thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you all.
Okay, I guess that's it. Okay, this is a public hearing. Does anybody out there want to come and speak on behalf or against this project? Please come forward. Okay, I don't see anybody, just JJ over there. I'm going to close the public hearing, and what's the pleasure of the commission? Questions, discussion?
Mr. Chair,
JJ,
I move to approve case number 23-5180 with staff conditions.
okay, we got a motion on the floor for approval. Do we get a second? I'll second it.
Just to clarify, I'm sorry to interrupt, that includes the remediation plan? Because I want to make sure that the association.
Well, staff conditions and remediation
Okay.
plan, yes.
And staff's conditions as well, right?
Yes.
Or condition, okay? That one condition they had?
Mr. Chair, it might be that the staff's conditions are already met. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it says to provide things that it sounds like have been provided, engineered, so is that correct, Brian?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, that is correct. That is the one condition that we included on the report.
Okay, well, we got a motion on the table, we got a second. All in favor of this, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Good luck. Merry Christmas. Okay, next case, or next item. Petitions from the floor. Anybody out there have anything to say? Okay. Communications from commission members. Any? I want to say thank you all for dealing with me and my fast talking for the last 5 to 6 years. I'd also like to leave the staff with a consideration, maybe a recommendation for how to address something like this. So maybe you can stop it from happening in the future. At the city, what we do in the escarpment is when we approve something for the heights, we require, as a condition of approval, an interim inspection at framing stage. That way we go out there and we do this interim inspection at framing stage. If I'm going to make somebody cut something down, I'd rather do it at framing stage than when it's all roughed. So I would say maybe, and I know CID won't help you guys because they have their own rules. So, maybe you can talk to the land use administrator or commissioners and maybe get some kind of policy in there where you can require this inspection at framing stage. And that way it makes it easier for us too when they come back, or if they ever come back and, well, they didn't call in for the framing inspection, or they didn't call in. And the hard part is going to, it'll be, CID won't help you, so you have to do that on your own. So I would just say, I would just recommend you guys consider that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we'll take that into consideration.
Thank you. And
Mr. Chair, just one last comment. It's been a pleasure serving with you on this board. And I've known you for a long time.
Yes.
Thank you for your service.
I also remember we also served before on the EZC together, remember? Before it became Planning Commission. Okay, let's see here. Communications from the attorney?
Oh, I have none, thank you.
Thank you. Matters from land use staff?
Mr. Chair, yes, I have a couple items. At this time, I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you to Chair Gonzalez and to Commissioner Stephen Krenz for serving on the Planning Commission. And I would like to read this letter of appreciation for your service. Dear Charlie Gonzalez, thank you for serving on the Santa Fe County Planning Commission over the past several years. Please accept this certificate of appreciation on our behalf as a token of our gratitude for your service to Santa Fe County. And again, thank you. We have a certificate for you signed by the county manager and the Commissioner Hanson, the chair of the BCC.
Thank you very much.
And just one other item for the remaining commissioners. On the next meeting in January 18th, Commission will elect a chair and vice chair, so start thinking about who you want to elect at that meeting. And I believe we'll call on Vice Chair Gonzalez to start the meeting. That's all staff had.
the next regular scheduled meeting is January 18th, 2024. And can I get a motion for adjournment?
I'll second.
We're adjourned. Thank you all.